Yes.
Sawyer, yeah, absolutely.
Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome back with Jazmine Gittens on the virtual wholesaling. Be telling us how we can all get into wholesaling commercial properties. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people. I posted about this earlier today, and we had a lot of response of people wanting to learn about this. This is something that's different, it's unique, and right now with this whole pandemic that's going on, I think there is a great opportunity for people to come in and begin to wholesale commercial property. So first and foremost, Vonzel, I'll let you take the wheel and introduce yourself before we hop right in.
Absolutely. So yeah, my name is Vonzel Sawyer Jr. I'm a junior,
Nice.
and I have basically a national assignment company called Zell Investments and Acquisitions. I'm also the owner and president of USARealtyNetwork.com. And so basically, sorry, pardon me.
Okay.
Basically, we're a national assignment company, so we focus on wholesales. We started off as a wholesale company, doing residential obviously first, and then we've moved over into multifamily and commercial and things of that nature. But yeah, we're a national assignment company, so basically what that means, i.e. wholesalers, right?
Right.
We just like to use that term when we talk to sellers and of course different people in our network, because wholesaling doesn't always get the best rep. There are definitely a lot of individuals who have done very well in wholesaling, and we're starting to get some really good fighters on our side as far as the industry goes. But we like to make sure to use terms like that. So yeah, we're just a national assignment company. We do other things like helping other wholesalers with investment tools. So as you were mentioned before, like our buyers list, contracts, ebook educational things and things of that nature.
Love it. Love it. So you guys have a lot. And one thing, guys, so he's national, right? Their company is national. So if you have any deals in any particular market, or if you're looking to build your buyers list, right? This is something that I know a lot of our newer wholesalers in the group are looking to, like, should I build my buyers list first, right? Or should I get a deal first, right? And my recommendation is always that you can do them at the same. You don't have to do one or the other first. You should be putting energy towards both, right? But now you have someone here, Vonzel, that can actually assist you with selling those deals off, or even getting access to his buyers list. So that's amazing. So what's anybody that is interested in accessing that buyers list that you have, that national buyers list that you have, how would they get access to that?
So yeah, they simply get access through our website. I think I shot you a link a little bit earlier, and they just get access through our website. And I guess I can just explain a little bit about that. So the way the cash buyers list works, it's a list that we've kind of built over the past few years that we've been in business. And a couple of years ago, we decided to start sharing it with other wholesalers, because we know there are wholesalers that are out there who you may hear that same thing that you were just talking about, like, hey, get the deal first, buyers will come, or get the buyers, the deals will come. And whichever way it goes, what we found out in the beginning of our wholesale experience is that even with Facebook, sometimes, it's not always easy to talk to legitimate buyers.
Right.
And that's really actually a process. Even though people say it's easy, it is easy for people to find deals, but it's not always easy to find seasoned buyers per se, right? Buyers who have been been in the business for 5 to 20 plus years.
Right.
So that's where the buyers list and our investment tool comes into place, because we decided to give people access to it via our website. And it's helped a ton of people, close deals. My actual buyers, my guys I have in my phone, literally are on the list themselves. I think we just added Jazmine. We need a little bit more info from you so we can.
I got you. Yeah, put me on that list. I need some deals.
Absolutely.
Buy some stuff, right? So
absolutely.
And this is great. And I think one of the things that I really liked about the list that you have is that the buyers that you guys offer on those lists, you already mentioned as a season, but they're actively buying deals, right? So the list that you've compiled is a list of investors that are actively buying. I think you said 2 to 3 deals in this year, which is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So pardon, let me
buyers,
give you the stats on that. So the stats on that are basically any buyers that are on our active buyers list, they have 3 properties or more they've purchased in the last 6 months. And usually when we get them on our list, they've purchased in the past 3 months.
Oh, nice.
So,
nice.
So we try to make sure they hold a certain amount of equity. And the reason why it's like that is because I do it that same way with my deal. When I started Zell Investments and Acquisitions, like most wholesalers, I started by myself. I could say, my wife was still, that was when the skeptical ages were, right? When you're first getting into wholesaling, and my wife's like, okay, like, all right, okay.
Sounds good.
Like, all right, you gonna put time towards this? Okay. Right. And at the time when I actually first started, I already worked from home. I had my own electronics company and sold nationwide, worldwide, and all that good stuff. So I kind of already had an idea of what kind of wholesaling was about. Then when it came to me, it just basically put itself in my face because my first deal was literally handed to me. I started kind of getting a better understanding of how these things work. So as I was mentioning before, getting to the point, is when I originally started, there just wasn't a lot of opportunities to actually learn and understand or get what's needed. For example, I think it was like my second deal. I had a great contract at the time. It was decent. I did all right, but that's exactly what the title attorney told me after my deal was done. He was like, your contract was all right, but let me pull you to the side here. And let me show you what you're missing, what you need to do next time, and things of that nature. So it's really like, it's a learning process, and it's definitely, like I've told you before, I don't do a whole lot of mentorship and training and stuff, but I tell people all the time, like, I won't teach you how to wholesale, but I'll do a deal with you, because you're going to bump your head. You're going to crash and burn a few times before you can really, learn how to take off. But getting to the point, the cash buyers list really gives people a better opportunity. So when they do have a deal on the table, they're able to actually access buyers where they don't have to pay for a list and then skip trace the buyers and then try to contact the buyers. It's all there for you in the cash buyers list, the buyer's name, their contact, business address, Facebook if they have it. I think we do LinkedIn if they have it as well. Obviously their email, where they buy and what they buy. And that's a lot better than getting a deal in your hands and be like, okay, well, I just, paid, I don't know, $50 to $300 for some lists that I sourced a whole bunch of residential sellers off of. And then I just got a deal. All right, now let me source another list for some buyers for another $50 to $300 in my city and see who's been actively buying. Now I got to skip trace these guys. So let me spend another $50 bucks. And so we try to make it as seamless as possible. In this day and age and technology, getting access to information is super duper easy, but some people just don't want to do the work, and it's completely understandable. At the same time, it just gives you immediate access.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, we definitely appreciate that. And I'll know after this, you'll post in the comment section where they can actually get access to that. But tonight we come here because, and of course, in addition to that wonderful buyers list that you have, everybody wants to know how to wholesale commercial deals. Okay, so we want to really, really, really get into that. So tell me, how is it that you are finding, commercial properties? What does this look like? What does, wholesaling a commercial space look like?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's interesting because wholesaling commercial is really, it's not much different than, as I'll explain to you before, not much different than a traditional wholesale deal, right? On a residential property.
Right.
You're essentially getting a property that is undervalued, deeply under market value, if possible, right? Getting it under contract with said seller and then reassigning that contract to an end buyer. Same concept. The mechanisms of a commercial deal are slightly different in the fact of time and essentially network. So just to off the bat, I have never done a commercial deal just like by myself. I own my company. I've done a lot of residentials on my own. I've JV'd on deals, but I've never done a commercial deal where it's just like, all right, it's just me and the seller and the end buyer. It's always a team. First commercial deal I did, there was like a 7-person team.
Right.
That's what I was going to ask you. I'm sorry. Can I share on here? Because I figured the best thing to do, I was going to share a deal with you guys.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do it.
Cool.
Share. You can definitely share, and I can make your screen big so everybody can see your screen.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and I'll get to that. So basically though, like just as I mentioned, I never did a deal on like just by myself. You usually want to put together some type of team. Mm-hmm. So like I said, the differences between a traditional wholesale deal and a commercial is usually going to be time and usually network. And like I said, the reason why I mentioned network is because it's about the way you're setting up the deal is also cognitive to the way that you're setting up your network and who helps you get the deal done, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm. And when you say time, you're just saying that it usually takes longer to close this type of deal. Gotcha.
Absolutely. So, and commercial can mean anything, right? So from commercial warehouses to commercial business offices, obviously multifamily, anything that's basically anything that's 5 doors and more when it comes to residential is considered commercial. Sure. A lot of people don't know that 5 doors and under. So basically if you have like a 4-plex, it's not considered a commercial, right?
Right.
So anything that's 5 doors or more when it's considered residential, it's considered a multifamily commercial unit. And there's different ways. There's lots that you can do that are considered commercial, that you can sell for commercial purposes and things of that nature. So there's just a lot when it comes into commercial. But like I said, it is essentially the same as a traditional wholesale deal. The main differences are, like I said, are going to be time and network. So the reason why I like commercial deals nowadays and multifamily deals, one, because the benefits to them. Benefits to them are great. You'll get a lot of coaches out here that, talk about doing wholesale residential deals. And they're like, we're doing, I don't know, 10 to like 30 deals in a month or whatever it may be. And with commercial deals, that time aspect is so important because one deal will set you for 2-3 quarters. Meaning that, you can have a $50,000 spread on one or $100,000 or $150,000, $200,000 spread on just one given deal, depending on how you set it up. The one thing that I would, I guess, want your folks to know the most, though, before even trying to look into wholesaling commercial deals, is just understanding what you're wholesaling in the first place. And I digress just to bring you back to a point, mainly because in wholesaling, right, we don't really sell houses. we don't really sell commercial properties. My wife says it best. I sell paper. Yeah,
absolutely.
I sell paper. So just remember what your product is. Your product is the contract,
right?
Like literally, like that's your baby. That's what makes you the money. Right. And so when it comes to commercial wholesaling, that's really the key. When getting into it and getting an understanding of it and actually getting a deal on the table and making it go through is the terms of the contract. Because just like any residential property or wholesale deal, any residential wholesale deal is never the same. I've never been in one wholesale deal where it's been exactly everything happened exactly the same. The sellers acted the same. Like it's never happened. And it's the same exact thing with commercial properties or multifamily properties. So when we're looking for properties like that, the first type of people you want to look for as sellers of a commercial property, multifamily, or whatever it may be, you usually kind of want to look for distressed, just as it is as it's not as much different from residential. You want to look for distressed, not only physical properties, but you want to look for distressed owners. And when I mean distressed owners, like really tired landlords. So ideal guy is, a guy who's owned his, 15-door multifamily property for the past 35 years. He's 70 years old. Right. His wife wants him to retire. And he just doesn't want to put in the work. Or there's individuals who are just lazy landlords.
Mhm.
And you would think lazy landlords equals like, some fat guy scratching his belly and he doesn't take care of his business, but no. Lazy landlords, believe it or not, lazy landlords are actually really, really rich guys who actually just don't need the asset on their books anymore.
Mm.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So you those are the type of sellers that we usually go for.
Okay.
We do a lot of creative deals here at Zell Investments, i.e. like subject to on properties like you can do on residentials. We do master leases as well for multifamily. That's our main push when we're doing deals is what they would call master lease contract, which basically means, and I'll break that down in a nutshell, which basically means that you have a purchase and sell agreement, but you also have something called a master lease agreement with your purchase and sell agreement. And what that master lease agreement gives you the capability of doing is being able to essentially make changes to the property, physical and financial, without holding the property in full. You just hold the note.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So for instance, we had one where we got the property under contract as a master lease. But what the problem was and what was ideal was this was a guy who was essentially a tired landlord. He was an older gentleman. One key factor that you want to find, which was a great thing with him, is he never raised his rents. So essentially his apartment complex was surrounded by other apartment complexes that would charge maybe like $1,200, $1,100, $1,400 for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, whatever it may be. He's charging like $700, $750. He's got tenants that have been there 10 years, 7 years, long-time tenants and all that stuff. So that was actually a pristine opportunity, because once we got the master lease and we were not only had the purchase and sell agreement, but had something called a master lease that also locked in there that we can make changes, we were able to start slowly increasing the rent, making different rehab, like rehabbing the property to bring its value up. And within that master lease, we usually set those out. So it'll be like 3 to 5 years or whatever it may be. And it gives us a great opportunity. I think the first deal I had like that, the first master lease deal I had like that, one of my buyers personally called me. He was like, "Hey man, I'll give you 50 grand for it right now."
Wow.
But I hung on to it because that's when I knew. I was like, oh, okay. Right. So, and I still rock with that property right now.
Nice.
Yeah, and we have it for another 4 years. But getting back to the point, you want to find those types of sellers that are essentially tired or just lazy.
Are you guys doing like direct mail? Are you calling these people?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your number one marketing method?
Yeah, so our number one marketing method is actually text message.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually text message. It's crazy how that works. So I know a lot of successful guys, especially like some of my guys who are now like buyers like myself now, because they all started off as wholesalers, now they're buyers, right? Right, that's how it goes. And a lot of my guys, they'll spend money on mail and they get great results. Don't get me wrong, like mail is great results. Cold calling is always great results. But crazy enough, when I started my company, I couldn't do a few things because of my home life. So I already had my own business and worked from home, but it never required me to like customer service or do any of those things. It never required any type of thing like that. So my kids yelling in the back wouldn't have been a problem. But when I originally started, I tried cold calling and doing all this stuff, and man, it's fun, I guess, in my mind, but it's kind of hard to get a rhythm and cold calling going when you get every now and then a 3-year-old running up and grabbing your leg, yelling, "Dad, dad, dad." So I got to the point out of necessity. I started text messaging sellers. I ended up actually doing a few things where I got a textable 800 number that I'm able to text sellers from and things of that nature, make it professional and all that good stuff. And it's turned out really good for me. I would say at least 87% of my deals, like all together, commercial, residential, have all been text.
Oh, wow.
And I've done a few of them not ever talking to the seller, which is really crazy. Never like ever getting on the phone, ever. It's so crazy.
Okay, well, tell us about that, because I'm sure people want to know. So like you're texting them, right? And then you are just sending over the contract. I mean, you're just sending over a contract and they're just signing it?
Absolutely. So so I'm gonna give you guys some jewels here. So basically, I totally get it. So basically how it works is that was the key to us getting an 800 number that's textable. I would suggest it to any of your followers. I try to tell people about it all the time. They just don't listen, but I've had this thing for 3 years. It's paid me. It's paid my family. It's awesome. But it's through GoDaddy. You can get an 800 number. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money or anything like that. But that 800 number is a textable 800 number. What I found out is that I'm a national company. So when I text sellers, whether it's commercial, residential, they don't want to, I'm in Colorado. They don't want to see a 303 number pop up, a 720 number pop up. Like I like to tell a lot of wholesalers all the time, you know, get your business registered, all that stuff. Why? Because people like doing business with businesses, period. Exactly. So what I did was got the 800 number. It's a textable 800 number, and it's not a text blast or anything, but I source all of my information. So we'll like pull a list as far as like people that own commercial units in a specific area, whether it's gas stations, offices, whatever it may be. We'll just pull a large list, whether it's through PropStream or whatever it may be. And then obviously we'll skip trace, and then we'll start sending out text messages. Now, don't get me wrong. I think over the years, I've had to change a lot of stuff. I started off text messaging, and like that's all we did was just text.
Yeah.
Text, and then COVID. And COVID kind of shut that down in a way because companies started, even internet companies like Zillow and whatever else, started operating differently. So we've had to start doing different things. That's why I don't knock cold calling. I don't knock mailers and things of that nature. But one thing I've loved about wholesaling, and the whole time I've been in wholesaling, is if I probably added up the amount of money I've spent, even in the amount of years that I've been in wholesaling, it wouldn't even like pinch the amount of money I've made. It wouldn't even come close. So I try to keep my costs down as much as possible, especially since I'm a one-man show. Some time ago, I had up to about 6 staff or so, and then COVID hit. So then we kind of, I kind of redacted from that, and I'm a one-man show again. But I love it because that's why we focus on commercial now. Right.
So you said that you're sending those texts like individually, not as a text blast?
Say it again.
You said that you're sending those texts individually, not as a text blast?
Correct. And there's a reason for that too. So a lot of people always ask like, well, why not just, use a text blasting system or whatever it may be? One, here's the issue. With letters, like when people are mailing out letters, that's really personal sometimes. A lot of sellers get a lot of mailers in the first place. So sometimes it's not too personal, but that's why people started sending letters in the first place. I always figured when you send out a text blast, it's not personal.
Gotcha.
And then it comes from one of those weird, like 4-digit numbers. I don't feel special. Yeah. And really, especially when it comes to the commercial, especially multifamily, you have to make the seller feel special, like uber special. There are deals I have done where my wife is literally looking at me like, are you still on the phone? Like, you're still on the phone. And I get it, but I had to put in a lot of work. Because this seller just talked my ear off for hours and hours and hours and cried and everything.
That's what I'm talking about.
Really in the trench deals. And so, but yeah, the main thing about it is we source it that way. Then we send out text. Oh, sorry, I was making a point there. So we don't do the text blast as well because a lot of people don't know that you can get into some legality things with text messages. So that's why we do it directly. It's just kind of like asking somebody or recording somebody in public. You have to ask them, right? So it's the same difference as us sending out a whole bunch of text messages compared to sending somebody an individual text about their specific property by name, by whatever it may be, right? And then it comes from an 800 number, so they're just blown away by that in the first place. I'm trying to tell y'all that's a key.
I better be writing this down.
Right there. I'm trying to tell you. 800 number, GoDaddy. I've had it for 3+ years now. I absolutely love it. It's powerful. To answer your beginning question, so yes, we send out a text message. Basically what I've done it so long with text message, I have templates, right?
Okay.
So we'll send out a text. It'll give the offer on the property or tell them that we want to talk to them about it. They'll respond. If they say yes, they want a deal, then we'll send them out something called a letter of intent to purchase, which is basically a letter. It's not binding in any fashion. It doesn't get signed or anything, but it's just a letter stating some of the basic things that we'd like to see in the terms of the agreement, what price we want to purchase at, when we'd like to close, how much we'll put down, things of that nature. Once they agree to our LOI, we shoot them off a contract immediately. We get the contract signed and we get calling title company.
Love it. I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. Now, so two things, you know, from our conversation. Well, one, I'm wondering when you're making those offers, right? So obviously with the traditional wholesaling, you know, we go find the comps, right? And we can easily make those offers based on, you know, what's selling in the area. And my assumption is that in the commercial space, that's going to be a little bit different. That offer. Is that correct? Or
yes. So that's one of the nuances, or one of the smaller nuances of wholesaling a commercial deal compared to a residential, because when comping a commercial building, it's like, if you don't have the specific software to properly comp it, like i.e. What's that? Not Shooter's Gallery. There's a Shooter something. It's a REI software that a lot of real estate agents use. And then obviously PropStream is really great at doing it as well. But yeah, you really have to hone in when it comes to commercial buildings. So to give you an example, if your followers don't know right now, when it comes to residential,
that must be what you're talking about the cold calling, right? My son just ran in here.
Absolutely.
Ran in and ran out. So I'm sorry if y'all heard the little one.
Nah, I got you. So when comping, so what most people do, right? When comping a residential property, you usually don't want to go like more than a mile out, right?
Right.
Like on residential properties.
Right.
On commercial, completely different. You usually end up anywhere from 3 to 5 miles out. In a commercial property, if you have to go 7 miles out to comp your property, it's not worth doing it, because that means it's one of a kind, and they built it in a bad place.
Right.
Nobody's gonna want it. You're gonna get it under contract, and you're gonna run into the same thing the seller's been running into for probably the past 3 years, right? Because they can't sell it.
Yeah.
So when comping commercial buildings, multifamily, whatever it may be, you want to stay anywhere from 3 to 5 miles, no more than 5 miles out. It is a little bit tougher. Like I said, you usually want software. Now, if you don't have access to software, one of the really good things you do, and like I said, is one of the key things to commercial deals, is your network. Hit up a real estate agent, find a title broker, attorney, or whoever it may be, somebody that can get you some actual numbers. Most of the time it's going to be a real estate agent, right? But obviously in some states we have some attorney states where there's no title company. So sometimes those attorneys in the attorney states know better than sometimes even a real estate agent.
Right.
Because they do essentially all the deals. There's no title companies in their state. So essentially you want to kind of look at it in that manner. You have to go a little bit further out on commercial properties when comping them. A couple of the other things that you want to look at when you do finally get the proper comps for a commercial property is, one thing is you're going to want to look at what type of commercial property it is, right? Is it a gas station? Is it a nail salon? Is it office buildings? Is it a parking lot? Is it a car lot? Is it a storage unit? Is it a multifamily apartment complex, right?
Right.
So you kind of want to obviously know what type of property it is. And then also one of the elements that you have to look at once you actually do have your information. So let's say, for the sake of example, it's a warehouse, right? Well, one cool thing about warehouses, which is a cool gem, I like to give this one out. Warehouses are actually super easy to wholesale. Reason why is because the comps are usually right next to each other. For example, if you look at any city in the United States and you see one warehouse, what do you usually see next to it? Another warehouse. Right. So you usually get rows of warehouses in cities, things of that nature. So it's usually really easy to comp them. Two, one thing I've learned about warehouses as well is that usually there's usually one person that owns multiple in one area.
Okay.
Either a company or an individual, but there's usually a person that owns multiple warehouses in one specific area or region.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's what I mean by like network, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if say you couldn't find the comps for a specific warehouse but you notice there's this guy or this lady or this company that keeps popping up that owns 3 of them on the same block as your property and 2 down the street and another 2 miles down. Well, you might want to get in touch with them and ask them like, hey, either how much would you guys buy this for? Do you know how much it's worth? Have you just start doing your investigative stuff, right? And find out as much as you can. That's why I say your network when it comes to wholesale deals are like super duper important. As I mentioned before, literally, actually, there's not one wholesale I've done that's just been 2 people. It's always multiple people. That I have in on the conglomeration, shall I say. And that actually brings me to a point when I'll get there. So anyways, yeah, so that's essentially what we do. We look at all that. So say it was like a commercial deal that you were looking at, you want to call a real estate agent, get the comps, make sure you got all that stuff. Some of the other elements you want to look at other than just comps is something called net operating income. If you're taking notes, that's one you want to write down because these are one of the big quirks that doesn't happen the same with residential as opposed to commercial. Net operating income is essentially the income that property produces every single month or year or quarter or whatever, right? It's the amount of money that the property produces. It's not the value of the property. A lot of people ask that like, oh, so if the property is worth, I don't know, $8 million, that means it like brings it. No, whatever that property is doing. So a property could be worth $8 million and say there's nothing in it. It's just an empty warehouse. What's not bringing in any income?
Right.
So it's actually probably in the negative. They're probably borrowing money. But at the end of the day, though, you'll want to find out something called net operating income, and that's the money that's coming in. You get into cap rate. It's something called cap rate when you're looking at multifamilies and apartment complexes. And basically, that's just the amount of growth you could have over a given year based on the net operating income. So just those 2 things. I won't go too detailed into that because that's when you really start looking into this stuff. But if you guys want to Google anything or get information on it, you want to look at when doing a commercial deal, the net operating income of the property. And then obviously if it's an apartment complex or multifamily, you want to look at things like its cap rate compared to its net operating income so that you can price it and give out a good offer, right?
Yeah.
So you got all that, right? You got all this information and you want to make an offer on this commercial building. So let's give a scenario. Say the commercial building, I don't know, has been owned for the past 20 years by the same person. Let's say for easy math sake, the building is worth 500 grand, right? But it's a warehouse and say it's not empty. Let's say that he has somebody renting it out as an auto space, right? Auto shop space for, I don't know, $3 grand a month. That's part of that net operating income, right? So he's using the space to bring in profit, but he's had it for 20 years. It's not really paying his bills, not paying his mortgage, So you can come in there like a traditional wholesale deal and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I know you got this commercial building. I know you got these guys doing auto work out of it. I seen you've owned it for some time. Would you like to possibly do a cash deal? Cash deal, obviously, on a $500,000 house, or sorry, commercial property.
Right.
More than likely, it's going to be the same traditional way that you look at residential. You'll want to be probably about 70% under the actual after repaired value, or with commercial, it's a little different because most of the time people don't come in to update commercial. It doesn't usually happen like that. But that'll bring me to a point. But with this specific property, say you just update a little bit or whatever it may be, well, you'd want to just make sure that you're deep enough to make sure that the deal makes sense, right? If it's a cash deal.
Right.
Here's the main point. One thing I've recognized with commercial deals, all the stuff that I've done thus far, I haven't done one cash deal.
Okay.
Not one. There has not been one deal where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, let me get you under however much percentage under retail value. I'm gonna come in at, say it was the 500K deal, like, hey, I'm gonna come in at 200 grand and sell this for 50K. It's not that type of party.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, they're out there. I've seen them. Like, they're out there. But most of the deals that I also have seen, even from friends and people that I know, the $150,000 checks, the $100,000 checks, $50,000 checks, those come off of creative financing and really basically the terms of the contract. That's why I stress that a lot, that the contract is really your product. So even once you got this commercial property under contract, your contract and the terms in that contract is what's the most important, and where you can actually get your money from. But for example's sake, so we got the commercial property, and say the seller's like, hey, if it was an easy deal, I'll sell it to you for 200 grand. That's an easy wholesale deal, right? Not always likely in commercial. What more than likely would happen is the seller is going to want to, first, with commercial and multifamily, they're going to want to know who you are.
Right.
They're going to want to know who your company is. They're going to want to know who you're affiliated with. They're going to want to know who you're affiliated with and all of that stuff. I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman when
did you have a partner joining on in today?
Oh no, maybe I sent him the wrong link.
Oh, okay. I got to see it. He's in the building.
He's like, I'm in the building. So that is my business partner. That is my business partner, but he's probably not in a place to.
You can shake your head, see if you want to join in. I don't know if he wants to join in or not.
No, I don't think he's not trying to do that.
Okay. All right. He's smiling. He's smiling. But he's here. He's in the building if he wanted to join.
yeah, all day. So that's my brother Antoine. He's actually one of the first people I did one with. But yeah, and that brings me back to the point though. When in doing the commercial deals, sorry, that threw me off. Tell me the last thing you asked. Those were the last things I said to you.
No, you were just expressing that it usually is not going to be a straightforward cash situation.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to finagle and create some type of creative situation.
So that brings me to my point. Let me see if I can share this with you guys. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll do it like that. So I don't know. So I just hit share on here, right?
Yes.
All right, let's make this as quick as possible here for you.
And I know in our conversation you were sharing that, like, because we mentioned COVID a couple of times, right? But because of COVID, it has created a great opportunity for wholesale and commercial spaces that have been emptied, or tenants haven't been, potentially paying, or businesses in and of itself have not had many, people come into their businesses like they were before. So is that, have you found that during this time it's created an opportunity for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like, you're actually doing this at a good time. I would suggest to a lot of wholesalers, even those who are just getting in, residential isn't even where to jump into.
Right.
Yeah, commercial and multifamily is, like, especially warehouses right now. It's huge because of all the things that are happening. Sorry, can you see my screen there?
No, not yet.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's
Let
okay.
me make sure I'm doing this right for you real quick.
Click anything.
Okay, now you can, right?
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, let me open this up for you guys. Awesome. Okay, cool. So, so this is actually a deal that we did sometime in, like, last year. It was in Wisconsin. It was a really large deal, had a lot of information to it, had a lot of meat and potatoes on it, but it was a great deal. I enjoyed working with the gentleman that I worked with, and I'm bringing this up. So usually, like I said, the cash deal on a wholesale deal for commercial usually doesn't always just go that route. You usually have to probably put something in the contract where the terms are appealing to the seller, right? So for instance, I'll just show you, I won't bog you guys down with this whole thing, but for instance, this seller, this specific seller was selling me this property at 5945 County K in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And this building was huge. I think it was like, this building was as big as a Walmart. And we actually tried to sell it to Walmart. Yeah, so we tried to sell it to Walmart, believe it or not. But yeah, this property was just huge. It was like just crazy. But so he would not sell me the property. He was even this was gonna be like somewhat of a cash deal. It was probably about 40% under market value, but we were selling it mainly as a kind of a lease from my company, or kind of seller finance from my company once we took possession, right? So in this deal, this seller would not sell to me unless I took every single thing in the building. At one point in time, at one point in time, the building was it was a resting home, and then he turned it into a college lodging, like kind of thing.
Okay.
And so we had to go through this thing. And I mean, this is when you need a network, right? I obviously don't live in Wisconsin. I had to put together an amazing team to go in here and document literally like stuff we have here. If you guys can see, like 12 metal desks, 97 chairs, 16 shelves, like just everything. He would not. Right. Even when I tried to renegotiate with this guy.
Yeah, take the toasters too. You had to take the toasters too.
Everything. He wants everything. The 2 pizza ovens, 120 dining room chairs.
Oh my God.
Like everything. You see, the list is going, right?
Oh my God.
So we got in on this property at 734. And we actually we wholesaled at 980. You guys can do the math.
Woo-wee.
No, it was a great deal. It was actually phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
So tell me, right? Yeah. So I'm sorry. So for because you know everybody loves talking about the money, right? So when it comes to well, first of all, let me let you finish, because I want you, and I'm sorry to cut you off, because I want you to kind of finish. I know you were getting to a point, and then we'll get to the money, because
no, you're good.
You just said 7 to 9, and just my mind just started, you know. So tell me more about the way that you structured that deal.
Yeah, so essentially, so that deal, then there's a reason why I bring that deal up, because these are the key factors. If you want to do a commercial deal or a multifamily deal, my partner, who's actually on there now, he'll tell you, like, one thing we don't like, obviously, daisy chains. You'll hear that term, where basically a daisy chain is where you are in the middle of a whole bunch of people that are between the seller and the buyer. That's not what you want. When I say build a network, I mean, you still want to have the property under contract to yourself, with your company, yourself, or whatever it is, but you need people to help you get the deal closed that you pay, obviously.
Right.
So people like realtors, attorneys, you know, the assistant that I actually had to pay somebody on Fiverr to go get all that information. Yeah. So things like that. But you want to be directly on the contract. But so one of the big things in that deal was obviously that the gentleman didn't want to sell unless we took everything inside the building. So we actually had to add that up as a value. There were some other little small niches to that agreement as well that the seller really wanted. But our main thing in this deal and getting it done was the network. Shout out to my guy Sean out here in Colorado. He's one of the better realtors out here in Colorado, who set up a conference. And so Rhinelander is a small kind of town in Wisconsin. It's not really, really big, but it's big enough.
Right.
And so fortunately, my realtor Sean, he got everybody online for me from different nonprofits, the city, like just you name it. Anybody that has something to do with a sale of a building that big in their city, they were on a phone call with me.
Yeah.
And we had a meeting, and the meeting went really, really well. One thing the way I ended up getting that deal done is because, one, I wasn't from there. So the community was really on edge about the whole thing in the first place. They were like, man, you know, these guys aren't even out here. They're not buyers in this state, you know, whatever. And one thing that really helped is that I made sure to build my network so tough that when I would talk to my seller, he would know certain things. When I would talk to somebody from the community, they would know certain things. So for instance, I had my meeting with everybody from the community, all this good stuff. My seller calls me the next day. He's like, hey, I want to try to sell my other house over here off of whatever, because, I know you talked to the nonprofit people the other day. I've been knowing that girl since she was since she was 6 years old. Now she runs a nonprofit. Da, 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 da. So their community is really tight knit. And I had to make them understand, like, hey, I'm your friend. Right. I'm here to be your friend. You see me, I'm doing the right. Right. Because, at the end of the day, people won't sell to you if they're not comfortable.
Yeah.
So that deal, it took a lot. It took some months to get done, but it definitely took my network, and that's what it's really about. Like I said, when it comes to commercial deals, especially this deal, it took time and it took a really solid network of people.
And is this one of the deals that came from a text message?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do I have it? Oh, I would have to go back so far. Yeah.
So tell me, what is the and we got a question in now, but what is the when you're deciding like what market, because that's the deal in Wisconsin, are you just choosing all everywhere? Or you just like give me every single commercial property in the United States of America? Like what's your process when deciding?
Yeah, absolutely. I got you on that. So we operate nationwide except for in 2 states, which is Oklahoma and New York.
Okay.
Oklahoma, they're just kind of getting stringent about wholesaling and stuff like that. We're trying to fight the power on that situation, but we don't currently do business there. And then New York it's not that you can't wholesale in New York, but they're a attorney state. Mm-hmm. And the attorneys are just, one thing I've noticed in wholesale deals, attorneys usually mess deals up.
Yeah.
So usually somehow, some way in there, they'll get the deal messed up. It's not in their favor if they're not making enough money or whatever.
Right. Love it. And we so you're just so I have somebody here and they're actually asking a question that I think is relevant to what I was just asking, right? So they're asking, do you have a niche focus when it comes to commercial wholesaling? Like, are you focusing on apartment buildings, warehouses, retail, malls, etc.? So great question.
So we focus on multifamily 10-door and up, and then commercial warehouse.
Okay.
That is the niche. And then actually really what our niche is, like I said, right? Commercial properties and apartments aren't my product. My contract are my products. So we focus on creative financing. That Wisconsin deal I just showed you guys, I haven't done another deal like that in some time. All the other deals I've done are really pretty much master lease or some type of creative financing. And the reason why that is because it caters more to that market. So for example, with the guy that has owned his commercial property for 20 years and he's just tired and he's older, well, a master lease situation or a seller finance situation can be set up where it's wrapped into his retirement and they're not worried about paying bills down the line because they're still receiving payments from being paid on a property that's just set out for a long distance of time. Absolutely. So there's just, it caters to that community a little bit better with the creative financing. But to ultimately answer your question, warehouses, multifamily, 10 doors and up.
Love it. We got another comment, which is all flames. Just saying, this is fire. They said this is fire. Wow. Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. So there's this. Okay, we just got another question that came in. But let me kind of just ask these couple of questions first. So one, the money, right? So I'd love to talk about the money. So obviously, right, you're able to get large, the price on these properties are larger. So you're typically, like you said, you can be anywhere from 50 to, 100 or more on a particular transaction. From start, what would you say is a realistic expectation in regards to like when you're first starting out to when you could potentially be closing on a deal if you were just getting started?
So like a good number you could make?
No. Like how soon could you expect to even close a deal? From like, let's just say you got started wholesaling commercial today, I know you said time is something. So are you looking at like 6 months? What's something?
So it's interesting. So just like on residential, I would tell you like literally 4 weeks, right? On residential, and like you probably even know that, right? Like you
Yeah.
could get a property under contract and get it dealt with in 4 weeks, right?
Mhm.
Even as a beginner, like if you just had the struck of the luck, right? Like, all right,
Right.
you just got it good.
Right.
But on commercial, it's actually funny enough, it's somewhat similar. You could do a solid commercial deal within 2 to like 5 months.
Oh,
There was a friend of mine who he got a commercial, a multifamily deal under not master lease. He did a what was it? Oh, he did seller financing on the property. Great
okay.
deal. Let me tell you about this deal. So this is an awesome deal. So the deal is worth the property's worth $1.5 million. He got
Mhm.
the owner to seller finance it to him for $1.7 million. He only put a down payment of $30,000 down to get the
Whew.
contract. That you know where I'm going with this. He
Yeah,
put
that's
down $30,000 and he wholesaled his contract for $130,000. He did that within a 9-day period.
what?
Now it wasn't his first deal, don't get me wrong,
Okay.
but he knew who he wanted to pass it off to and all that good stuff already. But that's just the magic of the larger deals. Because say for instance, if he would have held on to that deal and he had it for 6 months, all it was going to do is just continue to raise in value, and
Mhm.
his wholesale price or his fee was only just going to raise in value, because at this point, if you're holding on to a property, you spent 30K to hold it, or 15K or whatever it is to hold it, and you've had it for 3 months. Any buyer that comes to you, you're gonna be like, I've had this for the past 3 months, man. You're gonna have to cough up some
Yeah.
real money here.
Yeah, yeah. So, with the commercial space, do you need to have, because with the residential, right, you can get away with putting down, for us, we put down $100 earnest money deposit, right?
Mm,
With the
mm,
commercial, it seems like you need to be prepared to put down a
mm.
nice, pretty penny.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So this is just me though. See, now everybody is how I get down. So in residential, I've never put down a deposit. My buyers always put down the deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just no deposit at all, right? In this particular situation, I want to pull this back up for you guys. Can you see that again?
Yep.
Awesome. So it just depends on terms, right? So in this
Mhm.
specific situation, we got this property for like $738,000. We should have been putting down like probably about 50 grand at least. We put down $2,000. Yep,
Wow. Wow. That is great. That
absolutely.
is amazing. Yeah.
So, because the thing about it, one thing I've learned is that I used to really be big on earnest. I used to try to get deals through earnest money, which I do
Mhm.
not suggest. Don't do it, because then your buyers just look at you crazy. Don't do it. Don't try to
Mhm.
get the deal by offering more earnest money, because at the end of the day, the buyer doesn't really receive that, or not buyer, but the seller doesn't receive that earnest money in the first
Right.
place. It goes
Right.
towards the purchase of the property. So offering
Right.
more towards that, you might as well just offer more on the property, right?
Right.
Instead of offering more money up front.
Mhm.
So that's kind of one of those things where like you're asking, like how would I, go about getting the earnest money for a commercial building that is worth $1.2 million? Well, then that's where it comes into your network and what you're doing and your research before you actually get under contract. So for example, if we went back to the example of the commercial unit that was warehouse, he had the auto guys in there, it's worth 500,000. Well, one of the things I would have did after I got all my information and the surrounding properties and things of that nature, I would have got on the phone with a real estate agent like, hey, who do you know who's in the market for a property like this, for one, before I even sign the contract? And then
Mhm.
two, if you don't know anybody that's in the market for it, what other companies in the area do you know are possibly selling their properties that are just like this? Because
Mhm.
what I've also found out is that companies, especially companies that buy in bulk, while they're selling, they're usually buying.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So if there's other
Right. Right.
companies that are around there that they have properties there and they just sold a couple, they're more than likely going to buy as well. So it's just really about that network aspect and getting the information before you sign on the dotted line. But once you do, it's off to the races.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
tell, I treat my commercial deals just like I treat my residential. I give myself an amount of time. I don't know if you guys saw that in there, but I give myself a certain amount of time to drop the deposit on any property.
Okay.
So whether it's $5 million, $50 million, $200,000 house, I have at least 7 days
Right.
to drop my earnest money. And I actually really give myself 5 days. If my deal's not sealed up and it's not assigned in 5 days, I usually don't even move forward.
Move forward with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's not a deal, more than
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
last thing you really want to do with these folks is that's why I try to tell, wholesalers, especially new ones, like, okay, yeah, you can do a deal in your name, but just, it doesn't probably cost a lot in your state to get registered or
Right.
whatever it may be, or get your LLC or even get your tax ID. Do business as a business, because a lot of these people, especially with what's going on with COVID and whatever else may be, when the property crash is coming. And when it does come, what the problem is that the only way you're going to be able to actually get deals is by people feeling safe with you. Because when everything goes to crap, people aren't going to feel safe.
Yeah.
And I'm you see the fedora I do. I'm the fedora king, man. And I've had a guy. I was doing a commercial deal in Minneapolis, and this guy had like 15 properties he was going to hand over to us, and he looked me up, and just because of my fedora, he was like, "Yeah, man, he basically expected me to look like a real estate agent, like, right? Most real estate agents have on all the jazz and stuff. I'm from Colorado. I'm really relaxed, and we're Mile High. We chill out here, right? But it doesn't work everywhere. So that's why you just really have to understand who you're dealing with, what your approach is, and being professional is just the most important part. And that's when it comes into the network as well, because I've gotten some folks that are like, man, I'm not professional enough to go talk to somebody about a commercial building, or I don't have this or I don't have that. And don't ever believe that, because what you do have is you have a phone and you have other people that are in that industry who you can make a part of your network that you can call and ask them to do something on your behalf for some money. Right?
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So yeah, I mean, one thing I hear from you is just the importance of the network, which, in wholesaling, I mean, that's literally the first thing that I teach in my course for virtual wholesaling is your network. Like, build your team, right? So you know what market you want to go into. Next thing is to build your team. It's so important. So we got one more question from someone, and they're asking, how do you target? I'm not exactly sure particularly what they mean, but maybe
target sellers.
Yeah, I think we kind of went over that. He said, I know you said that you pull, your list and you send your text messages.
Well, the different ways, so the different ways to actually locate them, like I said, are going to be like your real estate softwares like PropStream and stuff. And then obviously getting lists, doing mailers if you're into that, or cold calling. At my company, we do strictly text message. That's just that's our culture here. So, but those are the different ways. And really, as we were just speaking about the networking aspect, the commercial deal I'm in right now that I'm actually selling, I got into that deal through another buyer. Yeah, like just random conversation. And he's like, "Hey, you're the perfect guy for this." So it's really just about who you're speaking to, and then really what you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. My goal for USARealtyNetwork.com, we're actually trying to create a space, not similar to Facebook or anything, but trying to create a space between wholesalers and buyers and investors, where you really can not just connect, but actually get actual learning material from each other for free.
Love it.
Right. So we get a lot of questions about our cash buyers list. If somebody gets a deal off of there, if they have to pay our company and stuff, and absolutely not. There's enough properties out here in the world for everybody to eat. And there are enough deals to be made. So we really wish the best to everybody that gets started in this business, because a lot of people get in, they gas up, get all the information, and then you kind of poop out because life, right? Life happens and things of that nature. But I'm telling you one thing that I'll never forget, and I forgot exactly who said it. Who was this that said it? I forgot who said it, but the only way you actually lose in wholesaling, whether it's commercial, residential, like that you're just not successful, is that you stop. If you just stop, it's over.
Yeah,
It's
that's
over.
a good one. That's good. Yeah, we talk about that all the time. Like just being consistent, just pushing through what's happening. It's coming. It's right there. Like, that's the old adage, but you got to stick with it.
Yeah, but you can get a commercial deal done pretty quickly. I remember the first time I did one, it took like 3 months or so, but I did it, and it was funny because my wife looked at me. She was like, "How long did that take?"
That wholesaling thing you was talking about.
Yeah, she's like, "How long did that take?" She was like, "So you're already paid off?" I said, "Yeah, it just hit Wells Fargo. Let's go."
Oh, wow. I love it.
And but they're fun deals too. So commercial deals, like what I would like to just let anybody know is that don't put yourself in a mind state where there's a gap between residential and doing commercial deals. Because what you absolutely have to remember when it comes to wholesaling is that the properties aren't your product. It's the paper that's your product. And if you can't get something signed, get somebody else to get something signed. I have a assistant by the name of Ashley. She works with me often on lots of deals, and there's been plenty of times. It works in you ladies' favor, but plenty of times where I'm trying to get somebody on board. I let them talk to Ashley. They're on board.
Right.
Or I let them talk to this person. They're on board. Use all the different ways. But I really just want to stress to you that, because I used to think of it that way when I was wholesaling residential properties, it was all fine and dandy. But every time I thought about commercial multifamily, there was just this gap in thought, like, oh, that's too far.
Yeah.
Or, it was just this gap in thought. And then after a while, I started understanding. I was like, this is all just terms.
Yeah.
And the person that's selling a commercial or multifamily property is just a regular person that would be selling their house or whatever else it may be. They still have emotions. They may have a little bit more equity than the next person, but believe it or not, the times that we're in, a lot of these people don't. If anybody has access to PropStream, I go on PropStream all the time and see buyers with 22, 50 properties and things of that nature. Their net worth of their properties are like, I don't know, $7 million, $20 million, but some of them they'll own 22 properties, but be in the negative $8 million.
Oh man.
A lot of people it's not always as sweet as it looks. On the outside. So that's what I really just play on when it comes to doing commercial multifamily properties, just because these folks are regular. And just one more point, just to let people know, there are different levels to commercial properties. For instance, one thing I didn't cover, there are different types. So commercial properties, just to let you guys know, are based on when they were built. Just kind of like residential, but a little bit differently. So there's A, B, and C types of commercial properties and multifamily properties. So an A property is going to be like something that was built this year or in the past 5 years. A C property is going to be something that was like built in 2005 and beyond or back. A C property is going to be something that was built in 1990 and back, right? So those are the different type of property things. And then it also changes in investment ways when you get to more doors on multifamily. So for example, a 50 multi-unit family is like, that's lofty. That's a big property, right?
Right.
But like 100 plus units, 300 units and stuff, you actually, which I'm not there yet, we're working our way to it. We should be by 2022. But you have to be classified as a certain type of investor with the government. To be able to invest into particular properties that are like 150 plus doors, because those are actually pools of investors, and these pools of investors have a certain amount of assets that can protect them if everything was to fail.
Exactly.
So just to throw that out there, it does go to a higher level, and hopefully everybody gets there.
Yes. Man, Vonzel, you gave us so much information tonight.
I tried.
So valuable. I really appreciate you coming to take the time to talk with myself and our virtual wholesaling tribe family.
Absolutely.
So everybody take the time to go follow Vonzel and connect with him. And we're gonna leave a comment in the sections with all of the links. I'm gonna update the description with all of the links to his website to access that buyers list that he has. And like he said again, he's not doing much mentorship, but if you have a deal, he is ready to do a deal with you. So I love it. And if you have any last words you want to leave with the people, anything at all?
Yeah. So yeah, actually my partner just texted me because he's excited about this interview, and he was telling me just let anybody in your group, just letting you guys know, we'll do it to the 3rd. So from today until the 3rd, we're doing 50% off of the lowest package, which is the $14.99 package, just for this group specifically. So I'll send you all the information so you can put it out there. But yeah, we're going to do 50% off of access for the first month, which is really awesome.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I want to throw that out there.
We bringing y'all so much, so much. So is C is that the partner that you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you, C, because he's still in the building. He's been here the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we have so just to let you know, we have 3 different packages it gives you 6 months access, a year access, and 2 years access. The 6 month access will actually be doing away with it here soon. So this is a really good opportunity for everybody in your group to get in at 50% on the lowest package. And then also will be after the 3rd, it won't be around anymore. So you'll be locked into that price for a whole 6 months. Right. Right. So yeah, we want to come up with something special for you, you know.
Love it. Scott, somebody saying, let me pull up the, cause I can pull up the session was very informative. Thank you so much. Right. Awesome. And then we got the fire flame going.
Right.
They loving it.
That's what's up. That's cool,
yes. Good game. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Vonzel, so much for taking the time to be here with us. Thank you too, C, because he's been here the whole time too. Thank you so much. And guys, tune in next week. We'll be talking about more wholesaling, and I hope you guys got some great value out of tonight's live. So thank you again so much, Vonzel. Everybody have a great night.
Indeed. Bless. Y'all be good.